Hi, and welcome to the third Getting Started with Moodle video. Today we're going to be looking at discussion forums, whether you use them for a class discussion or whether you want to use them as an assigned assessed activity. So I'm in my Moodle course, and I'm going to start by turning editing on. So now we have our extra icons like we did in the previous video, and now we have add an activity or resource. So I'm going to press that button, and I'm going to go to our forum option, and I'm going to go add. So our forum name, this is the link that will appear on the course page. It's also the link that will appear in the student's gradebook if this is being assessed. So you might want to do something like discussion forum 1 and then give a week. So maybe this is August 31st to September 4th. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe you want to leave a topic. This might also be a great way to have a general class discussions. Or a social area. Depending on what you want to use your forum for is going to determine what type of forum you're going to use. Generally, most people use one of two types. So we have the standard forum for general use, and we have in here also the Q&A forum. So a standard forum for general use, a student can click a link, and without having made any posts at all, they can see all of the discussions that are taking place in all of the context. With a Q&A forum, a student has to post and wait for the editing time on their post to expire before they can see the replies of other students. They can see that other students have replied, but they can't see who the student is, and they can't see what that student's written until that editing window has gone by, and then they can participate in the larger discussion. So if you use your forum and you want to have a social area or an introduction area or general questions about the course, you probably want to use a standard forum for general use. If you want to use your forum as something that's assessed and you want it to be a discussion where maybe students have to watch a video and then give a reflection on that video, maybe you want that set up as a Q&A forum. So a student has to make an individual post before they get to see the replies of what their other the other learners in the course have written. You might also use a standard forum for general use for assessment as well. If a student is facilitating a discussion for a week, because a Q&A forum relies on a person to be an instructor in order to make a topic, which we'll take a look at a little bit later on. If you want a student to facilitate a discussion, generally you want to use a standard forum for general use so that students can create their topics, they can reply to all the students that are posting in that topic. So I'm just going to select standard forum for general use. If you are assessing with a word count, maybe students have to post 250 words, and you just want a quick check on whether or not they've met that threshold, you can have a word count displayed at the bottom of all posts. Just change that from no to yes, and that'll be at the bottom of all of the posts. The subscription mode determines how students are notified or whether they are notified about new posts in the discussion. The default is an optional subscription. This is an opt-in subscription. So generally, if a student makes a post, the default is that they'll opt into the discussion. They can also go into the discussion forum, and on the right side there'll be a little dot icon which they can turn into a mail envelope, and that will subscribe them so that they'll see posts from other students coming in. Another common one is the auto subscription. So this is similar to the optional subscription, except it's opt-out. Everybody starts subscribed to the forum, but if they don't want to receive those email notifications, they can opt out and just pay attention to it on their own time. We also have the forced subscription. So the announcements forum is an instructor-only forum, and it has a forced subscription. So students cannot unsubscribe from it. Everybody is by default enrolled in that, subscribed to that discussion, and they can't opt out. And then subscription disabled is the exact opposite. Nobody's allowed to subscribe to that. So that one's very, very rare, but the other three are pretty common. So I'm going to put this on optional. That's our default. Our other main section is grade. So if you've gone ahead and set up a Moodle gradebook and you have a category for your discussion, you can set your grade category here. So I have some grade categories for assignments and quizzes. And if you don't have a gradebook set up, we'll have a video for that available in this course as well. So you're more than welcome to check that out. You can also set the grade to pass. So if a student needs to get 4 out of 5 or 80 or a pass, you can set the grade that a student has to meet in order to get a pass on the activity. The next section is ratings. So these are the grades that you would attach to a discussion forum, and this will show up on the forum itself. So the first thing that we do is we decide how the ratings are decided. So first off is no rating, so it's not marked. There's no grade attached to it at all. Any of these other options will automatically add our discussion forum to the Moodle gradebook, because these other options mean that we're grading our discussion forum. So you might have an average of ratings. You might have a count of ratings. So each rating is marked out of 1, and you need to get 3 of those marks in order to pass the forum. The maximum rating, so if you're going through and a student gets a 5 out of 5, a 4 out of 5, and a 3 out of 5 on some of their posts, then it's going to let them take their highest marks, so they'll get the 5 out of 5. Minimum rating, same thing in reverse. That student with the 5, 4, and 3 is going to end up with a 3 for that week's discussion. And then a sum of ratings. So it'll take the rating that you give the student and it'll add it up. So if every post can be scored off a scale of 1 to 9, a 1 to 3, for a total of 9 marks in a week, then you can set that as a sum. Mark each discussion on a scale of 1 to 3, and if they get a 1 and a 1 and 1, then they'll get a 3 out of 9, so on and so on. So I'm going to go average of ratings. This tends to be the most common one. Then what we have is our type. So a point is a numerical whole number. The default is 100, which is usually nobody uses, but you might have a maximum grade of 5. So this will give us grades of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alternatively, I can do a scale. So if you have a pass-fail scale, you can do that. So I can't change the maximum grade now, even though it still says 5. But what this does is it gives us the option of saying whether a post is a fail or whether a post is a pass. We also have a competence scale where further evidence is required or they meet the competency. And then some increment scales as well, 5-point scale from 0, for example. So I'm just going to put this on point. So we have a maximum grade of 5. And you can restrict ratings within a range. So if it's a weekly discussion forum, maybe you want to say, I'm only going to be able to rate until a certain point. So maybe we said that this ends September 4th. We could set that this ends at September 4th at 6 o'clock, and students that have made a post after that 6 o'clock deadline, the option to give them a grade on that post isn't even going to appear. So if you want Moodle to keep track of which posts are eligible for grading and which ones are not, you can set that up here by checking the box for restrict ratings within a range and then setting what range is acceptable for a student to post in. The next section is common module settings, and this is a really weird name and it does a lot of things, but the most important thing that it does is it lets us set our group settings. So we have our visible, show, and hide, but usually we tend to set this from the course page. The ID number would be an ID number for the gradebook. And then we have our group mode. So we have no groups. This means that every student that's enrolled in this is in one collective. They'll see all of the posts made by the other students, depending on, again, your setting on whether or not it's a Q&A forum or a standard forum for general discussion. Visible groups means that a student is assigned to a group. Maybe that's a group of 2 or a group of 4 or a group of however many you set up. But they're in that group and they can participate with that group, and they can only post to those group members. But with visible groups, they have a drop-down option, and they can switch between the other groups and see what other groups are saying. So they can watch but not participate in other group discussions. And then we have separate groups. So they're split off in their groups of 2 or 4, whatever you have that set at, but they can't see what other groups are posting. So generally, if you're doing a group mode, separate groups tends to be pretty common for that setting. And the grouping is just the collection of groups. So if you have a different group for every week, you're going to have a different grouping for which groups belong to that particular week. So if you have those questions about setting up groups, we'll cover that in another video. And we're more than happy to help you set that up at the start of the year as well in the e-learning office. The other main section for this is activity completion. So this can be a really useful tool for tracking, less so whether or not a student has done something within your expectations, but more about whether or not they haven't. So the default is that a student can manually mark an activity as complete. So this gives them a checkbox option on the course that they can check as they're going through. And that's on that setting by default. But what we can do is we can say, hey, Moodle, we want you to determine whether or not that box gets checked. So we're going to say, show activity is complete when certain conditions are met. And below here are the conditions. So we can say that a student has to open the discussion forum. A student must receive a grade to complete this activity. They have to produce a number of posts or reply to a number of students. They have to create discussions, they must post replies, and they have to do it by a certain date. So if you have a deadline for a course, and maybe it's a student has to reply, they have to post once and reply to 2 others, so that's a total of 3 posts. You can set that this is going to be completed by, we'll say, September 4th. Moodle will check to make sure that a student has posted at least once or has replied 3 times. And they've done that before September 4th, 2018. So with this, we can go through our activity report and we can see which students don't have that check mark. So we know which students have posted twice or fewer. So that can be a really powerful insight into the course discussion as well, just from like an at-the-glance kind of spreadsheet. And we'll show you how to take a look at that. So I go save and return to course. So now we have our social area discussion forum. But I'm going to go down on the left and we're going to take a look at that activity report. So it's under reports for your class. And near the bottom of the list is activity completion. So here we only have the one activity, but it's this dash square, which is a sign that Moodle is going to grade this one itself. And we can see that neither of our students have completed that. And we've just set that up. So that's totally reasonable that our students have gone in and posted 3 times. But it lets us know that that's the case. So inside the social area, we can have, if we had a description in here, it would show up on this page. We also have this option to add a new discussion topic. And since this is a standard forum for general use, students are going to have that button as well. If this was a Q&A forum, this button would say ask a question, and students would not have that option. They would not be able to ask a question in the Q&A forum. That's something that only instructors can do. So if you want to use a Q&A forum as an assessment, you have to make sure that you set up the post where students are going to reply to. So I'm going to add a new discussion, and we get our subject and our message. So the subject is kind of the link to the larger discussion. So if I put introduction, I say, hi, my name is Jason. I'm an e-learning instructional designer. This introduction is what students are going to see as a link to this discussion. They'll also see when I posted this, how many posts there have been on this discussion. And they're also going to see my user picture, if I have one, as well as my name. When they click the link, they'll have this post as well. And I can also format it. So if I want to use text colors, if I want to increase the heading size, or bold, or put a link to a video or a website, or put a picture. So if I want to do an introduction and I want to include a picture of myself, I can do that as well. I can attach a file. So if I want to post a rubric for how I'll be grading these discussion forums, I can do that on my introductory post as well. The pinned option will keep things at the top. So if you're have some guidelines about asking questions or some announcements or something like that, you might want to pin that to the very top. So it'll always be at the first list, even if there are posts that come after it. So more recent posts or more active discussions, the pinned topic will always be at the top. And there's send forum post notifications with no editing time delay. Moodle holds things back, notifications, for 15 minutes. It gives you a little bit of time to go in there and catch any last minute typos, or if you accidentally press the button too early, you have some time to kind of go in and edit the post. If you want to put out the post notification right away, you can check that box. It'll skip the 15-minute window and it'll post to students right away. We can also post a copy to all groups. So if we have 12 pairs of groups or 12 pairs of students, we don't have to make the same post 12 times. We can say, post this in all the groups. It's the group of discussions. So they'll see one of those posts in their discussion. We can also choose which group we want to post in. So if we have a post and it's specifically for group 3, we can go in here and say, post this just to group 3. The display period, it tends to be more of a tripping stone. A lot of people that do enable it, the post becomes invisible and hidden from students after a certain point. And oftentimes, that's not really the full intent. Generally, discussions is kind of a thing that students might want to review before a final. So if you want, you can disable when a post is visible for. But I recommend probably being very careful with that setting. So I'm going to post a forum. And now we can see that I have 15 minutes to edit that discussion. I see the title I gave in my discussion. I see my user picture. So if you're in an online course and you're going to be relying a lot on a discussion forum, you might want to recommend that students add a user picture so that there's kind of this token that students can see, oh yes, that's that person that's making that post, and kind of like building a little bit of connection and recognition in the course. They can see my name. I can see which group this was posted to. I can see the number of replies, and I can see when the most recent post was. Over here is that subscription button I was talking about. So the mail button means that I'm subscribed. If I press that again, it turns into a dot. I'm unsubscribed from that. So stay subscribed. Okay, so what I've done is we've let a little bit of time go by and we have a reply in our discussion forum. So if I press the link for introduction, I can see that I have a post that's indented below here. And if I want to see which one this one is replying to, I can press show parent, and I'll get this kind of blue border showing, oh, Cindy's replying to this post. So it's a little bit obvious when there's two, but if a discussion goes on for a while, you might get a little bit lost in which one is nested under which one. But they're always going to be indented under the one that they're replying to. So as an instructor, I can edit this post if there's something that I need to fix. Maybe if there's something inappropriate or something like that, or a link's broken, you can go in and you can edit student posts. I can reply to the student as well. But over here, I have the rating ability. So I set that on a scale of 0 to 5. So we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I give this a 1, we can see, oh, the average of ratings here is 4. And it's been rated 1 time. So that would be kind of the basic way of doing grading in discussion forums. And that would cover most of the basics of using a discussion forum in Moodle. If you have any questions, please reach out to us on moodle@upia.ca. We're more than happy to help. Thanks.